with Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave for your money back. Neon Night Edition available now.
This is News Talk.
Welcome along, folks. So, got a busy show for you. We'll be talking about Vera Pauw's Republic of Ireland squad this hour. Ruth Fahey will give us her verdict on the lucky 23 and the unlucky several outside of that 23. Vera Pauw describing yesterday as the worst day in her career. We will be talking to Paul Rouse about his new book about modern sport in modern Ireland, and that's on the way after 9 o'clock. Keith Higgins will join us to talk about some Mayo Dublin. We'll be talking to Sinn Féin TD Chris Andrews, who has been very critical of Robbie Keane's decision to take the managerial position at Maccabi Tel-Aviv as well, just after 8 o'clock. So that is all on the way. 53106, the text number. We are at Off the Ball on Twitter. Will O'Callaghan here in studio. Hello, Will.
Evening, Joe.
And Richie McCormack. Good evening. Hello.
Joe, how are you?
Very well. So, well, I know it is your first story, Rich, so we might as well
surely is
get into it, because I think just from afar, this naming of the squad day has been so well flagged in advance that I, without thinking about it overly, had assumed that it would be a fairly joyous day, a day of celebration, another step closer to the World Cup happening. And yet there was like almost a somber atmosphere more than anything. Vera Pauw was talking about how she had spent much of yesterday breaking the bad news to many players who didn't make the 23. Apparently she stepped away from one interview today because she was so upset, and she was quoted as saying, "Today, it's not so much about celebrating the squad, it's more the pain we all feel of leaving players out, telling players that really stood up for me that you're not taking them to the World Cup and breaking their dreams. Yesterday was the worst day of my career." So, again, I wasn't anticipating the heaviness in advance, but it was that kind of day.
Yeah, I guess it speaks to the bond that's been created both between the manager and player, and between the players themselves over the past couple of years. But Vera Pauw says she has crushed the dreams of players omitted from her Republic of Ireland World Cup squad. The likes of Leanne Kiernan, Jamie Finn, Megan Campbell and Aoife Mannion are among those who won't be travelling to Australia. 2 months after earning her first cap, Sinead Farrelly is included in the 23 that will travel. The women's Premier Division is represented by Shamrock Rovers pair Anya O'Gorman and Abby Larkin, and Pauw says they left no stone unturned before deciding on her final 23.
Every week we went through all the players, all the games, every moment of every player we've seen that they have played, and that came to that we gave a few players extra chances. Said every player get the chance till the last second, and that's exactly what we did. On Monday night we finished at 1 a.m. We said, guys, we need to sleep now because the tiredness came in too much. 8 a.m. we're here again, get a few hours of sleep. From that moment we went into the training. After the training we've seen the video again to give every single player, especially the hardest decisions, to view that again. We are convinced that we made the right decisions, although they've been very, very hard to.
Sorry, Rich.
Yeah, sure. Finn, along with Harriet Scott and goalkeeper Sophie Whitehouse, will travel with the squad there as training players, and Pauw says Finn's exclusion was perhaps her most difficult call to make.
That has been the hardest. That's been the hardest decision. And of course we know that she's been part of that squad all the time. But you've also noticed that we've changed playing system. We have Kira Carusa now as a target player that brought Heather Payne to the right side with pace over the wing. And there's also players who jumped up levels, who've shown against Zambia. You've seen them yourself. So those options bring that you have to take tough decisions. And Jamie, especially because she played and the credits that she has, we've gone through every single video moment of her, also the last 2 weeks. So it's not just a moment, but you've seen also that Jamie was not involved in the last few games. And that's tactical, it's not because of her. And that is team sport, that is elite sport, that's football. As much as we wanted her to be part of it. So I'm so happy that she's still part of our squad, that she's traveling with us, that she will be, together with Harriet Scott, full member of the squad.
And good day for Courtney Brosnan as well.
Yeah, doubly good. Of course, she's been included in that squad that will travel to the World Cup. And the goalkeeper has also seen her contract at Everton extended by a further year today.
I suppose on a number of the omissions, it's come down to injury. So, for instance, Aoife Mannion has been in a knee brace for a month, and Pauw said of her situation, not close at all, no chance. And she made her debut, obviously, against China earlier this year. Impressed everybody in about 15 minutes, was probably on the plane after a half an hour, and she's a big loss. Her ability on the ball to pass out from the back is not something the Irish defence has much of, truth be told. Megan Campbell, again, no chance, a medical issue, nothing special, but privacy rules, I can't talk about it, said Pauw. So Campbell, again, injury. And then Kiernan, like an interesting case, Leon Kiernan, she missed most of the season with an ankle injury, played 45 minutes against Zambia, and it wasn't just a case, it seems, of the coaching staff just going by feel or judging it on their eye. They had heart rate monitors, and Pauw said the data showed that the time between explosive actions was getting longer and longer during the first half against Zambia, and her logic was that a World Cup will demand more energy than a friendly against Zambia, so that was the decision there.
I think it's fair to say on Leon Kiernan though as well, even when she was in good form with Liverpool in the second flight in England and playing well, never really got a huge look in under Vera Pauw. And as Vera mentioned in the couple of snippets that we heard just there, she's very much looking towards a system where she wants a target player to be up front, which is not what Leon Kiernan brings to the team. She brings finishing, she brings agility, but she's not going to be the player to hold up the ball under the current system. So I always got the feeling it would have taken a very, very impressive run in the last few games if she was to force her way into contention. And then you hear about Finn being dropped out, and that's that feeling that both the change in system and also maybe a drop off in form that the coaching team have felt, because she pretty much was an undisputed starter during the qualification. We always knew there was going to be one or two players who would feel extremely hard done by, and the feeling you get is that Jamie Finn is now first reserve if anyone was to get injured. But it's still a very difficult one to take if you've played such an important role in qualification, to miss out in maybe the month or two just before the team actually flies out.
4 goalkeepers.
Yeah.
Well, is it 3? There's 3 actually in the squad. There's one travelling as the extras, and that's
okay. That's
a necessary evil. Yeah.
Sorry, I thought it was billed as 4 goalkeepers are going.
3 and
no, Brosnan Maloney, and Megan Walsh. Sure,
okay.
the 3 goalkeepers. Then Sophie Nicholson is the extra. Harriet Scott and Jamie Finn are the outfield players that are going to travel as kind of standby training players.
Well, that makes total sense. Then I have no problem with that. Yeah. I retract my issue with 4 goalkeepers. There's always a bolter of some kind, and come on in Izzy Atkinson, who is 22 years of age, playing at West Ham, having been at Celtic prior to that. So in Vera Pauw's first 29 matches, she played a grand total of 45 minutes. She has 5 caps to her name. That was before she started against Zambia last week. For that Zambia game, she wasn't even in the initial squad. She was brought in simply as a training player. But then Megan Campbell, injury, she did well enough at left wing back. Pauw needs cover for the position, and suddenly, Atkinson, you were on the plane, nobody was even whispering your name 3 months ago.
Do you have a long throw, Atkinson? Probably what you're wondering as well. Like, that's genuinely a massive weapon that's now missing from the way that Ireland attack. I think back to the night we were here watching Hampden Park when they qualified, and Megan Campbell's throws were just creating chaos inside the Scottish box. It was almost as good as getting a free kick or a corner in some occasions, and that's actually something severely lost in the arsenal now by Megan Campbell not travelling.
It's true, and let's be honest, at this World Cup, Ireland will most likely not dominate possession. It will be akin to the performance we saw against the US recently enough, where it was a rearguard action, and like they're pretty good at it, you know, like the Scottish performance, the goal that Barrett scored on the counter, that kind of is emblematic of what you might be hoping to see at this World Cup. And they're very dedicated. Katie McCabe was on the record as saying we like defending, we like being that kind of team. So when you are that kind of team, having somebody whose throw-ins are akin to free kicks is particularly useful. So it's a weirdly big loss.
Yeah, no, I think they'll dig in against Australia and Canada, particularly in those 2 games where they're likely to do very little of the ball, and that could just be a relief if the ball goes out of play and you can actually send Louise Quinn or send some of the bigger players up and be an absolute menace in front of goal.
Yeah, like picture Cesc Fabregas's face against Stoke when Rory Delap was taking a throw in. That's kind of what you're missing out on. We have some Olympians, Richie.
Yeah, we've got 3 more today. Kelly Harrington and Michaela Walsh will be 2-time Olympians following quarter-final wins today at the European Games. Tokyo gold medalist Harrington advanced to the lightweight semi-finals courtesy of a win over Sweden's Agnes Alexiusson, while Walsh was a unanimous victor over the Danish featherweight Melissa Mortensen. Sligo's Dean Clancy secured a first ever Olympic place today, beating the Italian light welterweight Gianluigi Malanga in their quarter-final. However, welterweight Amy Broadhurst and light flyweight Dana Morehouse both lost their quarter-finals today by split decision, very narrowly so in both cases, missing out on Olympic qualification for now. They will have other avenues to Paris. There are also quarter-final defeats today from Meath bantamweight Jennifer Lahan and Donegal light heavyweight Kellen Cassidy. Jack Marley is through to the heavyweight semi-finals following his comprehensive win over Croatia's Marko Kalic. Marley must win his semi-final and get into the final to be assured of an Olympic place. And Aoife O'Rourke in the past half hour as well, through to the middleweight semi-finals in Krakow following a unanimous win over Sweden's Love Holgersson. O'Rourke is another who must get into a final to secure an Olympic place. In badminton today as well, there in Krakow, Nat Wen qualified for the men's singles last 16 despite a 2-0 loss to Mark Kallio of the Netherlands. And last night saw the Ireland men's rugby 7 side join their women's counterparts in securing Olympic qualification. They beat Great Britain 26-12 to claim European Games gold. Hugh McNulty says it's a literal dream come true.
It's funny, when I wake up, I never really remember a dream. It's just like blackout. I've dreamed about six or 10 times this year, and each time I've had a dream, it was about winning these games. I'm dead serious when I say that. I literally haven't been dreaming that for the last probably 6 months to a year in the lead up to this, so I'm glad it's now a reality.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, I think if you're David Nucifora, much criticised RFU at large for the performance of the women's 15s. In the eyes of many, that's been the cost of the sevens.
If he was sitting here right now, Joe, he would say the men's and women's teams are going combined to Paris.
Yeah.
And it was worth putting the investment into this.
I think you would make that argument. And when I arrived here, there was no sevens programme, and look at us now.
Yeah.
Now, why can't we have both will be the obvious retort, but in fairness, it would be particularly damning if the women's 15s had gone massively downhill in the last decade and the sevens programme had failed to launch as well.
Yeah, and the men's programme feels slightly different as well. I was just thinking Terry Kennedy has been a key player for them.
Yeah.
He was part of the Irish team that were the finalists in the Under-20 World Cup the last time it was in South Africa.
Yeah.
A lot of players, like the captain that time was James Ryan. Like a lot of them have gone on to play. Hugo Keenan, I think, was a sub for the final that time around. So a lot of these players have found a way, in Keenan's case, through sevens back into the provincial system, and it's provided that platform for those players, which has been really important, quite aside from the qualification itself. And based on some of the interviews last weekend, when it comes to the men's team, they feel one of the bad things about last time, it was dramatic the way they qualified so close to the games, but they felt they didn't have a proper run-in ahead of the championship itself. Now this time around they've got exactly a year to get ready for it, and they think they're going to put in a much bigger performance than last time out. And the women's team have been going really well on the 7th circuit. It wasn't even a case of having to qualify through the European Games for them, and they've got every reason to have high aspirations, I think, when Paris comes around, because they have been playing at a high level on the world circuit for the last 2-3 seasons now.
Yes.
The men's team were very impressive the last couple of matches, it has to be said, over there in Krakow, for the pressure that would have been on them to qualify, having missed out on the regular route and having to go a slightly circuitous way around to qualifying for Paris. They didn't play like there's a fatalism involved in being an Irish sports fan watching a team in a major final, and I guess in a rugby competition like that. And they didn't play the occasion at all last night. They were like more than a match for Great Britain. They outplayed them last night too, and were worthy winners in that final, and had a bit of a cocksureness and a swagger about them as well in that final. So that can only serve them well heading over to Paris.
On Hugh McNulty and his reoccurring dream, Will, anything you want to share? Any reoccurring dreams in your world of late?
I don't get any more dreams of God Save the King playing in the background, which is kind of strange in that clip as well.
That was the medal ceremony for the women's team. Yeah.
You dodged the question.
Yeah, I'll have to have a think about that. Most of my dreams come true, it seems, Joe.
Jesus.
Go on, Richie.
Come on, Richie. Take us into that dark soul of yours.
I think as well, my mind is a completely blank slate, and there's nothing comes over from that liminal space between night and day for me.
Well, you were talking about Paul Rouse in his book. He's got a whole chapter where he talks about the idea of, dreams and how important that is to sports people.
Yeah.
And genuinely, it seems that's something that has to be encouraged with sports people.
They're daydreams, though.
Yeah, but like if you're not able to visualize what you want to achieve as a sports person, it's very different to real life. Because in real life, you have to have a reality about what you're doing, and not everyone achieves their dreams. But in sports,
I want to get into your subconscious here. I don't care about your dreams and aspirations.
Well, there you go.
I want to get into the dark stuff.
Right, what's in the darkness of Joe Molloy's mind then?
Do you know? I definitely do dream, and I do remember them when I first wake up. And then I do what everyone does and reach for my phone and go about my business. And 20 minutes later, I'm like, what was I dreaming about again? It's gone.
So you've not quite got to the point where you get one of those dream interpretation books.
I need to start writing. The second I wake up, I need to write it down.
I'm just shocked you're sleeping at this stage of things, Joe, to be honest with you. That's enough of a surprise.
Relish sleep whenever you can get it.
Yeah. I think my dreams are generally disturbing.
Welcome to therapy with Joe on a Wednesday night.
I think it's rare you wake up and go, that was great. They're always just a bit weird. No?
Tell us about it. Stress dreams are a good one for me, actually.
Oh yeah. Go on.
Just ones where you're just like, yeah, won't go into details obviously, but you don't wake up the better of them. You don't wake up the better of them. Like, there was always that Mitch Hedberg joke, the late brilliant comedian, who talked about, like, his dreams are never relaxing. In his dream, he's always, like, making a go-kart with his former landlord. He's just like, I just want to chill out on a beach somewhere like that in my dreams. I don't want to be, like, making stuff. Yeah.
No, mine are never relaxing, I don't think. They're always...
No.
Whew, this is a situation. I've never had the old, wake up and it's my Leaving Cert type cliche dream. I don't know if they're real dreams.
Waking up in your underpants, getting ready for the Leaving Cert about to start kind of idea.
That stuff. 53106. Your
best dreams.
Best
your
and
best
weirdest,
dreams.
Please.
We're that close to misheard lyrics again.
Eventually, yes.
This is reminiscent of a phone-in show about 25 years ago. Would have had this as an opening slot.
28th of June, 2023.
Some still do, Will.
That's it, Rich. Available in podcast.
So, Declan Rice, what are we hearing? This is pretty much nailed on now?
It's a done deal, judging by things that are ticking through the timeline at the moment. The likes of Jacob Steinberg and Fabrizio Romano saying West Ham have just communicated to Arsenal that they will accept £100 million plus $5 million in add-ons for Declan Rice, the North London club, placing the bid last night. The difference between the clubs remains the schedule of those payments. Arsenal are wanting to spread their outlay over 4 years. West Ham want their money within 18 months. Manchester City pulled out of the race to sign Rice last night. Try saying that 10 times fast. It seems they're not willing to match that fee that Arsenal have put forward in the past 24 hours. Meanwhile, Arsenal have also bid €48 million for the Ajax fullback Jurrien Timber, but Rice, it seems, will be an Arsenal player in the coming days.
That does not hurt things at all.
It's the nature of an inter-Premier League transfer that this is going to cost more than Bellingham, but in a way it seems remarkable that Rice is costing more than Bellingham is.
What was Bellingham?
He was €100 million. This is going to go a reasonable amount north of that.
Yeah, Bellingham's is going to top out at 113 max.
This is what I think 105 plus add-ons or something.
105, so it's going to be pretty. Actually, yeah, I think Bellingham's is euro, so it's 113 million euro, whereas Rice, will probably come out around the same. And you can probably make your argument over which is the better midfielder. I'd still say Sofian Amrabat is probably better than Rice in that position, but sure, who am I?
Available for about 50 million less, I would think.
Okay.
Yeah. But this is signed an England midfielder from a Premier League club to a Premier League club.
There is the premium. You always pay that extra tax for sure. He's still a great signing for Arsenal. He's a great acquisition. I'm curious.
He's an improvement on Granit Xhaka and in that position, and Xhaka's and that's exactly what. If you're signing a player in a position for that money, they're going to be an improvement, or they have to be an improvement on what you have. I think he certainly is in that respect. So he's a very good midfielder. There's no dispute in that.
He's a brilliant midfielder. Now, whether he's an all-round midfielder in the attacking sense is going to be the interesting question. You mentioned Xhaka there, Richie. Like, if you think of Xhaka this season at Arsenal, when Arsenal are in possession, it is Zinchenko on the ball in midfield, and Xhaka is somewhere in the inside left channel, and he's find me and he's very much part of the attack, and he's pretty good at it, Xhaka. Like, I don't immediately associate Declan Rice with really quick feet and tight areas.
No,
and
he's got goals. He's got goals on him.
He's got 4 goals this season with West Ham. So
this season, I don't think was his best in terms of goal scoring. He has improved upon that in the past. But like I've done,
and nobody to be fair has scored for West Ham this season. So there is that.
True. I've done an inordinate amount of West Ham games on Sundays, Joe. Given the fact that they were in Thursday night action in the Conference League, and he does sit. Well, he did anyway for them. Sit very, very deep in midfield. Like he's literally almost a third centre half in terms of how deep he comes. He will bring it forward to a degree, but he's not breaking into the box with any degree of regularity, and it's probably something that Arsenal do need. But he's not going to bring that. Maybe they change it, I don't know. Maybe
that's the question.
Arteta can unlock that in him.
Maybe Arteta unlocks it because
they've so much creativity though further forward. You probably want someone to actually mind the house a bit further back.
Who's their house minder at the moment?
Probably Partey, Xhaka. Zinchenko will step in a little bit as well.
Partey, it's stayed deeper. I still, there'll be a requirement on him to get forward more, which is like good. I mean, I think he does have more in him. We just haven't seen it at West Ham. So that's the interesting aspect of paying £100 million, and he's very good at defensive aspects of the game and will be a steady presence in midfield.
It's also interesting.
You don't know if he contributes going forward.
Given how close Arsenal went, and we all wondered were they going to sign a finished product style player, this is dropping 100 million on a ready-made England international midfielder to come directly into their team to upgrade a position which they badly needed to upgrade. So it's very, very interesting to see where Arsenal will go with the rest of their budget now.
Yeah, true. More football, Rich?
Yeah, Edouard Mendy has swapped Chelsea for Al Ahly today. The Ivorian goalkeeper has cost the Saudi Arabian club €17 million. His now former Chelsea teammate Hakim Ziyech is on the brink of joining him in Saudi Arabia at Cristiano Ronaldo's club Al Nassr. Kalidou Koulibaly and N'Golo Kante have already joined Saudi clubs from Chelsea this summer. Connected to Chelsea, UEFA today closing a loophole that's allowed clubs spend massive fees but remain within the bounds of financial fair play. Starting from this summer, clubs will have a maximum of 5 years to pay off transfer fees. Chelsea had signed the likes of Enzo Fernandez and Mikhailo Mudryk in January, with those deals allowed to be amortised over 7 and 8 year periods. The law will not be backdated, so those transfers will still be valid. Clubs can still sign players, of course, on long-term contracts, but the money has to be dished out within those 5 allotted years.
Interesting. That would suggest Chelsea, as much as we mocked them, maybe that was a smart enough thing to do.
If you're Mudryk, you're probably thinking, thankfully I got inside just before the rules changed.
We had Matt Slater on last night, by the way, talking about the Saudi Pro League and where exactly it's all headed. It's a really good piece. He's Matt's almost unmatched, I would say, when it comes to understanding the business of football. So he explains all that really well. And he doesn't think, I know there is the fairly easy to contrive conspiracy that Chelsea are owned by Clearlake, which is Todd Bowley, and they're this investment fund generally. The Saudi PIF has invested in Clearlake, so by taking Chelsea players for exorbitant fees, they're protecting their investment in Chelsea via Clearlake. And he doesn't see it that way. He explains why in great detail. He doesn't think that's a straightforward line to draw, or certainly that it's correct to draw it. But on the Saudi Pro League, he's interested on it. It doesn't have delusions of grandeur. It doesn't think it's going to become, like we're taking over golf, we're going to take over football now. It doesn't think it's going to become akin to the Premier League, but certainly it does envisage itself becoming the best league in Asia. There is a kind of opium of the masses vibe as well. It's a football mad country, so there's that, and it's just part of their general flex, which is ongoing. A lot of players heading there as well. It shouldn't be undersold. But a lot of players that are heading there, sorry Joe, are Muslim as well. There's been several of them so far have been, like Karim Benzema made a very strong point of that when he signed up over there. Koulibaly as well, and there will be others. I mean, that shouldn't be undersold either. But that's a great point, Matt, saying that. I would raise issues with the likes of Ruben Neves heading there, whereby a club are paying over the odds for a player with a year left on his contract, and they're paying over the market value for what a European club would play, and yet
like in the case of Neves, you could probably draw conclusions about his agents and the people who are running Wolves. So there are deals like that I would have a deal of skepticism over, but I don't think there's one hard and fast rule for why players are going to Saudi Arabia, aside from large amount of cash. But there are other mitigating factors certainly in play there. I don't think that you can't make sweeping generalizations about everybody heading there.
Jerry wonders, do you dream in colour?
I do, but I heard people who dream in black and white.
Yeah.
This is a regular thing, yeah. I do dream in colour though, yeah.
Have they established if dogs are dreaming when they're running in their sleep, or is that just some kind of physiological response? You're not the man to ask.
I'm not sure there's been detailed studies on this, Joe, but
there definitely have been.
Of course there have.
I think they're definitely thinking of something. I know my dog definitely is like running and barking when he's asleep oftentimes.
The first thing I'm Googling during the ad break is, do dogs dream?
I bet you they say they do.
Well, we'll find out. I guarantee you there's been studies.
I did read a study that apparently, the way dogs can identify other dogs, apparently that's less visual and more so the smell that they get from other dogs. So they identify the animal as opposed to... Because I was reading this, is there an idea that they know that their human is actually a human as opposed to being another dog? And apparently they are familiar that you're a different species, but yet you can still be allowed into their pack. I did read about that study, all right.
Okay.
Apparently, yeah, as dogs fall asleep, after about 20 minutes, they enter REM sleep, which usually begins then around for the average dog. While dreaming, a dog's breathing may become shallow and irregular and muscles may twitch. Some people may describe this as chasing rabbits in their sleep. But yeah, we don't know what they dream about, but I think they are dreams, yeah.
Richie just knew that, by the way. He's basically AI.
Chat, Richie.
We are out of time. Richie, thank you very much.
Nice and lads.
Will, thank you.
Cheers, Joe.
Your chance to win big.
News Talk's Summer Cash Machine.
So the cash machine has been reloaded. The new number is 30,000.